Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Mobile App Academy, where we show you how to build mobile apps on the ServiceNow platform. My name is David Ha, and I'm an outbound product manager here at ServiceNow. And I want to give a warm welcome to everyone joining us here live today. If you're joining us live, let us know who you are and where you're joining us from. And if you're brand new to using the new mobile apps at ServiceNow, definitely let us know in the chat as well. And we love getting insight from all of you, whether it's from here or from mobile community. We'll put together these mobile app academy sessions based on what we hear and what you want to learn more about. There's going to be a lot of learnings. We'll be hosting these sessions every 2 weeks. This week, we'll be going over on how to enable quick actions and virtual agent on Now Mobile. And then next week, we'll be showing you how to quickly configure custom push notifications. If you have any questions throughout the presentation today, feel free to send them over in the QA sections over Zoom. And at the end of our presentation, we'll go ahead and circle back and address them as well. And the last thing I want to mention before we get started, these live sessions are recorded and they're posted to a YouTube playlist on our ServiceNow Now community channel. So you can go back and reference them, share them back to your team, or watch them again. So don't worry too much on having to digest all this material all in one go. And so without a further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight into it. I'm gonna log into my instance real fast. Okay, so today we're gonna jump into our Now Mobile app, and we're going to enable quick actions and virtual agent on our home screen. If you take a look at my mobile device, you can see that I'm logged into my Now Mobile app. Remember, this is our requester-focused app at ServiceNow, so this allows your employees to do things like manage approvals, submit requests, or view KV articles. And what I'm showing you here is a pre-built mobile experience that comes out of the box as soon as you enable the Now Mobile in New York, Orlando. What I have out of box is good, but what if I want to add an action to the pre-built experience? How would I go about doing that? So today we're going to create 2 actions. The first, we're going to create a create new incident action and then put it on our global actions so that our end users can quickly create new records on the incident table from their home screen in just a couple taps. So if you see this floating green button at the bottom right of our screen, these are our global actions, and I want to put a create new incident action on that button. And then for our second use case, for the second action, we're going to configure a launch virtual agent function that allows our end users to open up virtual agent natively within our mobile app. And we will use the ITSM out of the box topics from virtual agent, so you can do things like open a ticket without any additional configuration. Okay. So in order to get started, I want to show you the plugins that you'll need to set up in order to accomplish today's workflows. Also, the first thing I'll want to take note, in order to use the Now Mobile app, your instance must be upgraded to New York. But once you're upgraded, all you'll need to do to enable Now Mobile is to download a single plugin. So let's go to that plugin list now. We'll give it a second to load. And then what we're going to search up for is we're going to look up com.glide-mobile employee. com.glide.mobile-employee. Okay. And then this will pop up our ServiceNow Now Mobile app screens and applet launcher plugin. You can see that I already have this installed. And to activate this plugin, you'll need to be logged in as an admin role. And again, this is the only plugin that I'll need to enable the Now Mobile app. So now that I have it installed, I'm good to go, and I can use the Now Mobile app in here. And then before we jump into the app, let me show you the plugins that you'll need to use Virtual Agent. So Virtual Agent is one of our premium features. And if you have the Virtual Agent package, here are the couple plugins you'll need to install. The first one being, it's called Glide Virtual Agent. And you can see I already have this installed. This plugin actually will install your virtual agent platform, the chatbot platform. And this will also give you virtual agent designer. So I'm not going to dive deep into virtual agent. We do have a virtual agent app academy as well. that also runs every 2 weeks. So if you check out the virtual agent community site, you can learn more information on that as well. So now that I have the Glide virtual agent plugin installed, I'll also want to put in some out-of-the-box topics into this. And to use the ITSM one, I'll look up ITSM virtual agent conversations, and you can see I have that installed here. So those are the only 2 plugins that I'll need to use virtual agent on mobile. Okay. So now that I have Now Mobile, I'm already logged into my instance, and I'm seeing my pre-built experiences for Now Mobile, which are readily available once you enable those plugins. And in our last video, I showed you how to do things like configure my requests, configure my services, as well as configure things on the information tab. We did things like add requests, add new fields to applets. We also added new catalog items and did all these other things. And I also walked through some of the flows and use cases on what's available immediately upon enablement. You can actually check out that video. We've uploaded to ServiceNow Now community channel on YouTube. So if you haven't already, feel free to check out that video to catch up on getting familiar with the Now Mobile pre-built experiences and some of the other basic configurations that you can do. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get started on configuring my quick action for create new instance. So if you look at the bottom right of my home screen, this floating action icon here, this is my global action, right? If I tap onto this, this is enabled out of the box, so this is what will happen. If I tap on this, my end users will be able to ask questions. But what if I have different use cases? I want to be able to create other actions that pull from different tables. And in this use case, I want to put a create new instant action here. The first thing I want to note is the icon that you see here is an avatar icon. This is something that I can set, right? But this icon will automatically change to a plus icon and show me a different list of actions that I can take as soon as I put 2 or more. And so once I put it on here, you'll see that plus icon there. Also, if you attended our last mobile mobile app session or watched the recording, you'll remember that some of the mobile configurations that we did takes place outside of Mobile Studio using traditional platform UI. There are some things that you can do inside of Mobile Studio and some things that you can't do. And today, some of our configurations will take place on traditional platform UI. And since we are creating net new components on Now Mobile, we'll actually be able to start our configuration inside of Mobile Studio. And so we're actually going to use Guided App Creator to quickly create my create new instance function. And then we'll associate this quick action to our Now Mobile app, which that part of it will take place outside of Mobile Studio. So on my instance, let's go ahead and do this now. We're going to open up Mobile Studio. And then we're going to create a brand new scoped app. So we'll go and click Create Application. And then let's go ahead and give this name. I'm going to call this Live Webinar Part 2. And then I'll click Create. Here I can apply roles if I wanted to this scoped app. But let's go ahead and keep it simple, and I'll just use the admin role. And take note that you can also create roles here using Guided App Creator. Let's go ahead and continue. I'm going to select mobile because we're building a mobile app today. And then we'll continue. And then our actions are going to pull from the instant table. So we'll select instant. Know that whatever actions that you want to create using different tables, you can select them here, or you can create new tables as well. Okay, and then we'll click Start. And then here we'll review our design. If everything looks good, which it does, I'll go ahead and, oh, looks like I forgot to put my role. And now if everything looks good, we'll go ahead and click Create. We'll click Done with Apps. And then we'll go into Studio. And now if I clicked into our scoped application, Live Webinar Part 2, we can see that some of the things that Guided App Creator has created for us. So I use guided app creator to create my create new instance function really quickly, right? So now all I have to do is, now that I'm in Mobile Studio, is I can open up this uh, new button instance, new button instant function. And I can see that this create new instant function has already been created for me. I do have the option to change some of the parameters. If you're familiar with Madrid or New York, um, you'll know that we have some videos and docs on how to create actions and how to control what fields users can fill in. Right now, this action is going to allow users to fill in priority, state, short description, and so forth. This is a template that Guided App Creator has done for you. So you can actually delete some of these fields or add new ones if you wanted to using parameters. And you would configure some of the action item parameters as well. I'm going to leave it out of the box, so I'm not going to change anything here. But because we are going to navigate outside Mobile Studio, I'm going to need to be able to look up this function really easily. So I'm going to change the name of this function. So let's go ahead and call this to live webinar create new instant, just so that I can quickly look it up much easier later. And then we'll go ahead and click update. Okay. So this create new instant, I don't have to do anything else with it. It already works. So now that we're done here, let's go ahead and close out of this browser. And then we're going to open up the tab that's outside of Mobile Studio. Okay. So now that we have the action function created, all we have to do now is associate this to the quick action location of my applet launcher. So on our left-hand nav, we're going to find our applet launcher inside of Now Mobile that has this home screen. So to do that, we'll look up applet launcher. And this applet launcher is for Now Mobile. We know that this, we want to put it on the home screen. So we're going to open up home page. And then we'll go ahead and switch scopes so that I can configure this. And I think the scope for this is ServiceNow Now Mobile app screens. So let's switch into there. ServiceNow, here it is. Okay, and then at the bottom of my screen in the body section, you're going to see that I have a menu called Quick Action Menu Maps. And if I insert a new role, I can create a new quick action here. So let's go ahead and double tap. We'll click on this magnifying glass, and then we'll create a new function instance. A function instance just means it's a location within an app. Remember, anytime you create an action, you have to associate it and point it to the screen that you want it to appear. And where we want it to appear is going to be the quick actions on my home screen of Now Mobile app. So let's create a new one. So let's go ahead and give this a name. We'll call this to live webinar create new instant. So important things to know here when you're creating quick actions. On the parent table, you're going to want to make sure that this pulls the applet launcher. So that's always going to be your parent table when you create quick actions. And then for the parent is just asking which navigation tab that you're pulling from for your applet launcher. And in this case, this is going to be the homepage. So let's look up our homepage, and you can see homepage is here. Okay. So now all I have to do is select our function, and we know that we renamed it to live webinar, create new instant. The label is the name that your end users will see. So let's just call this create new instant. And then the location is going to be a quick action. The icon, for icons, there's actually a page on product documentation that shows you all the icons that's supported for quick action specifically. So if I show you this on product docs, here's the mobile icon. This is a New York release product docs. And if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see all the available quick action icons here. And so I know that that let's use wrench, do icon wrench, because I know that one works. And then we'll set an order. We'll put 10, and that's all you have to do. We'll go and click submit. Okay, and then we'll go back to my instance. We'll click this check mark to save this quick action, and then we'll click update to save all changes. Alrighty. And now all we have to do is refresh our home screen on the mobile app to update the app itself. And you're going to see that avatar icon of the floating button change from the avatar icon to that plus icon. Now I can see that I have 2 actions for my home screen on my quick action. I can now create a new instant, or since I have the out-of-the-box HR plugin installed, I can also create an HR case as well. So let's go and create that new instant. You can see that it works. Let's fill in some of these fields here. We can put priority as critical. The state can be new. Short description. And of course, some of these fields can be auto-filled as well, based on how I configure my actions. We do have other YouTube videos showing how to build action functions as well as product docs. So feel free to reference those videos if you want to learn how to configure your own actions as well. Short description, let's go and say network outage. We'll give it to Andrew, and then we'll go and click submit. Okay. And then if I refresh, I should be able to see it on my request. If I click into the record, here's the details of it, some of the fields that I filled in. I can go into my activity stream and add work notes, comments, attach a file, and so forth. And then of course I can follow up on this and put actions on this as well if I wanted to. All right, so that's how you configure a quick action really quickly. Of course, I could have used any other table. I could have changed some of the fields that my end users could fill in, but hopefully that demo should give you everything that you need to get started. So next, what we're gonna do is configure a launch virtual agent quick action so that our end users can quickly open up VA from the home screen. So I already showed you earlier that I have the plugins activated. So let's go ahead and open up Virtual Agent Designer, where you'll see some of the out-of-the-box topics, which have already been enabled upon enablement of the plugins itself. So let's go ahead and launch Virtual Agent Designer. And if you already have the virtual agent package, you should already be familiar with this tool. Showing how to create topics and using Virtual Agent Designer is out of scope for this specific mobile app academy. But however, remember, we do have a parallel running Virtual Agent App Academy, and which you can find more about on the Virtual Agent community site. And it's going to take you on deep dives on how to enable all the way to what is available out of the box and how to configure things. And so if you can also check out recorded sessions on the ServiceNow community channel on YouTube as well. But from this designer screen, I do want to show you some of the out-of-the-box topics that we already have available after we activated the ITSM virtual agent plugin. So you can see that each one of these cards represents pre-built conversations, or what they call topics. Some of these are active and some of them are inactive. The topic that I wanted to use specifically to put on our mobile app is called Open IT Ticket, which is here. And you can see that it's already active. But just to show you how to activate one of these other topics, let's go and activate check IT ticket status as well. I'm going to have to switch into the scope. So let's change into the ITSM virtual agent conversation scope, which is here. And then all I have to do, this is already a working topic. All I have to do is trigger this active. I'll enable it, and then we'll go and click save. We'll give it a second to save. Oh, it looks like he's already saved. I'll just go back. And then if I look at check IT status, it's now active. So I'm going to see those two topics once I open up VA within my mobile app. Okay. So now that my virtual agent topics are active, all I have to do now is create the function to launch virtual agent inside of mobile. And to do this, we have to start our configuration inside of Mobile Studio. We don't have to start it, but it's much faster. Anytime that you can use Mobile Studio, that's where you're going to want to start. So let's go ahead and open up Studio. And then we'll jump back into the scope that we created earlier. And now we're going to create a new action function. So anytime you create a launch virtual agent function, this is how you get started. We'll create a new function. Traditionally, functions need an action item for the action to work. But when it comes to launching virtual agent specifically, this is the only thing that you'll need to do. Let's go ahead and name this to live webinar launch VA. The type, you're going to change the type to chat launcher, right? So this is a new feature that came in New York. This type wasn't available in Madrid previously. We'll select chat launcher, and you're going to make sure that the context is global. Because we are putting this on the quick action, this is a global type of action. It doesn't require any context to a specific record to use. So that's why the context is global. And that's all you have to do. You can set conditions if you wanted to. If you wanted it to be visible to specific conditions or specific users, you would set it here on roles and table conditions. But I'm just going to leave it viewed by all, and then I'll go ahead and click submit. And that's all there is to it, to creating the function to launch VA. And now that I have the function, the last step that I have to do is associate it to a location. And the location that I want to associate it to is the quick actions. And to do this, we do have to leave Mobile Studio and go back to traditional platform UI. To be able to associate to this specific location for quick actions, that's a platform UI configuration. But remember, if I wanted to associate it on a regular applet for any other type of location, such as top menu or swipe or top menu on the form screen, all of those things you can do, field, functions, footer, all this you can do inside Mobile Studio. It's just the specific quick action location you have to configure outside on platform UI. So let's go ahead and close this tab because we're done with Mobile Studio. I think I saved already. I'm going to click update again just to make sure. And then we'll close out of this tab. Alrighty, and then we're gonna go back and open up our applet launcher again for Now Mobile. Again, we want to put it back on this home page for Now Mobile, so we'll click into the Now Mobile applet launcher. And then we're gonna switch into the scope again, which is the ServiceNow app screens and applet launcher scope. Which is here. And then we're going to insert a new row and create a new, oh, this is the body, sorry, going down to quick actions. We're going to insert a new row and create a new quick action. So again, we're going to give this a name. So let's go ahead and call this to live webinar launch VA. Again, I'm just giving it a unique name. That way, if I ever need to find this later, it's much easier for me. So depending on your organization, you're going to want to use naming conventions so that you can have distinct function instances, different functions, applets, so they're much easier to find later. And again, anytime you create a quick action, the parent table must be applet launcher. We are putting it on this homepage screen, so the parent is going to be homepage. And then we created that launch VA function. So now we just gotta select it here. I think we called it to live webinar launch VA. And then we'll give it a label. This is the label that end users see. So let's go ahead and just call it launch VA. Location is going to be a quick action. Know that this launch VA, this applies to any location that you can access global type of actions. So you can also put this on the top menu of an applet if you wanted to as well. It's not specifically just for quick actions. And then I'll give it an icon. Let's give it a different icon. Know that it doesn't matter because anytime you have more than 2 functions on your quick actions, it's going to automatically default to this plus icon. But I'll give it one anyways. I'll just give it another wrench. Or I can go to my mobile icons and see what's supported. I can put comments as well if I wanted to. And then we'll set the order to 20 so that it appears below my create new incident function. And then I'll go ahead and click submit. Okay, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Let's go ahead and click this save to save the quick action, and then we'll click update to save all of our changes. And that's pretty much all there is to it to configuring launch VA for mobile on your instance. So now back on my mobile app, let's go ahead and refresh my home screen. And if I click on this plus icon, I can now see launch VA. So if I tap on this, it should launch a virtual agent natively within my app. I can start a new conversation. It's going to initiate the conversation. It's going to greet me, ask me how it can help me. I can either type in create IT ticket, or I can see all topics. And you can see those 2 topics that I enabled earlier. So let's go ahead and open up an IT ticket. It's going to ask me to put in a short description. So let's go ahead and say network outage in San Francisco, because I am in the SF office location. We'll click send. It's going to ask me if any of these KB articles that it's shared with us here has solved my issue, but I don't think any of these articles would solve a network outage. So I'll go ahead and tap no. And then it's going to ask me for the urgency. I'll say it's a high urgency. And then there you go. It's created an incident for me, and a technician has been assigned. And you can see the details of that record here. And that's pretty much how you configure virtual agent on to mobile. And that's also how you set it on the quick action as well. That pretty much wraps up my demo on quick actions. These are some really basic configurations to get you started, but just know that you can edit it and do much more things with it. Let me show you one more configuration, just in case you're brand new to mobile. And I did use a shortcut. I used Guided App Creator earlier to do a create new incident function. So I actually want to show you how you would create that action from scratch if you are new to mobile. And I can do that inside of Mobile Studio. So let's go back into my instance. We'll go into Mobile Studio, launch my scoped application. And the use case here is, let's say I wanted to create a brand new create new incident function. And how I would do that is I would get started with creating a action item first. I would click create new. We'll call this create incident, and we'll say this was from scratch. I'm going to select the table that I want to create this function from, which is my incident table. The type is going to be new because these are creating new records. But just note that on this type field, there's other things that you can do. You can create new records, you can update a record, you can delete a record, and you can also use scripting as well. But for now, for this use case, we're just going to create a new record. And then we'll go ahead and click submit. When I create an action item, an action requires item parameters. And these item parameters, they just act as variables on what your users will see. What are the fields that you want to give to your users to fill in? So let's say I just wanted to create 2 parameters, one for short description. And the type of this is going to be string. Know that you have other types as well, like integer, a Boolean for true and false kind of fields, date, time, and attachment. But for short description specifically, it's just a string type. We'll click submit. We'll click this to refresh it, and you can see that item parameter there. We'll create another parameter for, let's say, priority. It's going to be a string type field. Click submit. We'll refresh, and here I can see my 2 item parameters there. So now all I have to do is map these item parameters to the fields that live on this table. So we're going to map short description, which is short description from my table. And we're going to map it to the item parameter that we just created. We'll use this contextual reference icon and map it to short description. And then we'll map priority. Oh, it doesn't look like priority lives on this table. So I think we're going to use urgency instead. Let's actually rename priority to urgency. So we'll have the users fill in 2 fields, one for short description, one for urgency when they create a new instance. And then we'll map this urgency to, I think I'm going to need to refresh this screen. So let's go and click save for now. And then we'll map urgency to urgency. And then we'll click update. Okay. So now I have this action item. The last step that I have to do is I have to create an action function. And I'm going to map this action item to that function. So let's create a new action function. We'll click create new. And this is going to be my create instance, which I'm doing from scratch. It's going to be, I'm going to attach my action item that I just created, which is create instance from scratch. Okay. And then for table conditions, I'm going to select my instant table. And then I'll go and click submit. Okay, so now we're almost done. If I scroll to the bottom of this, I'm going to have a related table called UI parameters. UI parameters are, it's going to take that variable that you took, that we created earlier. We have a variable for short description and urgency. And it's going to ask, how do you want that parameter to show up for users? Is it going to pop up as a list to select from? Is it going to pop up as a search list? Is it going to pop up as text? So that's what UI parameters do. Let's create a new one. We're going to have to create 2, one for short description, one for priority. Let's start with short description first. We're going to make it mandatory for short description because they need to fill in some sort of description in order to create a new record. The input source is going to be user input. If it was a different type of field that you wanted autofill for, you can select it here from the input source. But here we want users to manually fill in this field. The input type is going to be text, but know that you have other options like list, search list, and QR barcode as well. And then because we're creating new records, default value doesn't apply here, but know that if you're updating a record, you can actually click source field and it'll autofill, or it'll show the user the previous value prior to updating it. And then it looks like all these fields look good, so I'll go ahead and click submit. We'll close out of this tab. We'll refresh our UI parameters. Here's our first UI parameter. Let's create our second UI parameter now. And we're creating the second UI parameter for urgency. I'm also going to make urgency a mandatory type of field. I'm going to set the order to 20 so that urgency shows up below short description. This is also going to be a manually filled in field by the user. The input type is going to be list. We don't want users to freeform this field. So they'll have an option to pick from for urgency. And when you select list, it's going to ask what table is this field pulling from, which is instant. And what is the field name? And this field name is called urgency. Okay. Default value doesn't apply. And I think everything else looks good here, so we'll go ahead and click submit. Okay, and now we'll close out this tab. We'll refresh UI parameters. And now I have my 2 UI parameters. Okay, so I have my item parameters from my action item. So let me pop that open again. Right, I have my action item parameters. And then I have, which acts as variables. And then I have my action function UI parameters, which controls how these parameters are going to show up for users. And so the very last thing I have to do to make this action work is to map the item parameters to the UI parameters. And so you have this related list table called action parameter mappings. We're just going to map these 2 fields together, and then we'll be all set. So let's go ahead and do that now. For item parameter, we're going to map short description to short description. Click submit. We'll refresh. We'll see that there. We'll do one more for urgency. Mapping urgency item parameter to urgency UI parameter. We'll refresh our action parameter mappings. Now we have our item parameters and UI parameters mapped. So now our action function is done. This is basically how you create a function from scratch. I did a shortcut earlier where I used guided app creator to create the action function for me. But this is how you would do it for anyone who is new to mobile. And of course, I can add more fields if I wanted to. I showed you some of those settings that you can control, which allows you to control things like how it's displayed, autofill, use QR code, and so forth. But with every action, in order for it to show up on my mobile app, I have to put it on a location of some sort, right? So let's go ahead and put this back on this quick action location. And I'm also going to put it in the top menu of no, actually, let's just put it in the quick actions because today's session is all about quick actions. So again, to put it on the quick actions, we have to do this outside of Mobile Studio. So let's go and close this tab. Back on my instance, I'm going to open up the Now Mobile applet launcher. So let's look up applet launcher. We'll open up this homepage tab because this is where we want it. We'll switch scope. We're going to jump into the ServiceNow Mobile app screens and applet launcher scope, which is here. Scrolling down, here's my quick action mini maps. Let's go and create a new one. Right, so the configuration is the same every time. Once you get the hang of it, it's really quick. So let's go and give this a name again. We'll call this to live webinar launch create new incident scratch. The parent table is applet launcher. Again, it's always going to be applet launcher anytime you create a quick action. The parent is going to be this home screen page. And then we'll select the function that we just created, which is called to live webinar create incident from scratch. Oh, did I call it something else? What did I call it? There it is, create incident scratch. And then the label that I want users to see it as, let's go and call this create incident scratch. just so that I can differentiate it from the one that I have earlier. The location is going to be quick action. The icon, remember the icon doesn't matter because it's always going to default as a plus because I have multiple. I'll go ahead and just click the wrench one again. And the order is going to be 30. And then I'll click submit. We'll click this check mark to save this quick action and then click update to save all changes. And now if I go back to my mobile app, we'll refresh the home screen. If I click this plus icon, I should now see my quick action, which I don't see here. This is good. So let's go ahead and troubleshoot this and see what we did and why it's not showing. So let's go ahead and refresh this. Okay, so it looks like it lives on my quick action mini maps. So maybe it's the configuration itself. So I know that I associate it correctly. Let's go click into this just to make sure. Apple Launcher, it's on my home page. I selected the right function. It has the right label. The location is quick action. So what this means to me, since this all looks good, is that it's the configuration itself. So we'll go back into Studio just to see what I did on my configuration. I'm going to open up my action item again, create an incident from scratch. I can see that I have my 2 item parameters for short description as well as urgency. And I've mapped it here. Short description is mapped, urgency is mapped. Looks like my action item looks good. So we'll check out our action function. This action item is associated to the action function, so that looks good. Oh, here's the issue. So remember, I said that create instance are global types of actions. The context here is record, which means it's looking for a record to take context from. And it's not going to work because create new incident doesn't apply here. It's only a global type of action. So I'm going to change the context to global. And then if I click update, I think this should fix the issue because I believe I already have my parameters mapped. If I scroll down, I have my 2 UI parameters and my item parameters and my UI parameters are mapped. So everything else looks good. So let's go ahead and refresh our home screen again. And now you can see that I have my function showing up, create new incident from scratch. So if I create this, I'm not sure if there's any business rules that requires that I need more fields to create this instance. So, but let's go and try it anyways. Short description, let's call it, I don't know, broken laptop, urgency, high, and then we'll submit. No, so it doesn't look like I was prevented from creating that record. And there you can see in my request, I have a broken laptop. If I click into the record, I can see the fields that I filled in. If I wanted to control other fields like color or description, I'll just add it to my item parameters and UI parameters. So that's how you create the function from scratch. But just know, why do it from scratch if you can also use Guided App Creator. But there are other things that you can do with it, and I think it's important to know how functions are created from scratch. So it just gives you more knowledge on how to use it and ways you can customize it. So that pretty much wraps up our demo. And before I open up to QA, there's one last thing that I want to show, and that is our additional training slide. So here's some of the content that we have around mobile enablement today. First, we have, before all else, we have product documentation, of course, which you can read about the release notes, excuse me, as well as read how each component is configured individually. But if you want some more comprehensive training on how to configure each component or how to think about planning your mobile strategy, I would recommend checking out some of these other trainings that we have. We have the Mobile Development Fundamentals, which covers all the fundamentals for mobile and then how to think about it if you're new to mobile. It's this comprehensive learning course that will give you some hands-on training that's all available on Now Learning. And it is a free course for now. And then we also have basic developer training on our developer site. This is more for quick references for basic configurations around mobile. So if you don't want to sit down and do a whole 3-hour class around it, but you know exactly what you need to learn, you can actually just use the developer site, open up a lab, and refer to it really quickly. And then lastly, we have this unofficial developer training course for mobile advanced users. Essentially, this shows you all how to configure all the new components that we released for mobile in New York. And it'll actually walk you through step by step on how to configure and take advantage of all those new features that we have in New York. So that's that last mobile advanced development fundamentals link there. So, you know, if you're getting ramped or you're new to mobile, these guys will be very helpful resources in getting started on your mobile implementations. Okay, so now let's go ahead and open it up to the audience. We'll spend the remainder of this App Academy session to answer any questions that you may have. So let's check out our Q&A.
Hey, David, this is Tom. I can read some of these back. So
okay, cool.
We have a bunch of questions in the queue. Quick reminder, if you do have any others, feel free to go ahead and get those submitted and we'll start running through these. So the first one we have is from Leander, who's looking for some advice on developing for mobile in a more general sense. And he says, I've noticed I'm using Studio and update sets in different scopes mixed together, which seems like a hassle. Will this be easier in the future?
That's a great question. So I don't know if that question is in regards of if using update sets and that process of it to building mobile. Is the question more of, you know, there are some configurations that take place in Mobile Studio and some configurations that take place in Platform UI. And it's just a question of, you know, I don't know where to get started. Where do I start and whatnot? If the question is more pertaining to that, I think that some of these guides here from Mobile Development Fundamentals, Basic Developer Training, and Advanced Fundamentals, all of these will take you through kind of building an app from scratch, from using out of the box to adding more things to out of the box and how to implement those. And we actually have some additional content that we're planning to release on the community sites very soon. We're going to have kind of a mobile implementations kind of best practices. And this content or collateral is actually going to show you, you know, these are all the features that you build inside of Mobile Studio, and these are all the features that you build outside of Mobile Studio. And it really kind of gives you more guardrails on where if you wanted to configure something, it's a quick reference. You can go to that doc, and you'll know immediately where to start. So this is what we have available today, of course, as well as product docs. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to mobile community as well. And we also have additional content coming out very soon that will kind of give you more best practices kind of guides. So hopefully that answers your question. Feel free to clarify if I missed any part of that question.
Okay. And Leander had a couple in one post here, so I'm going to run through the others as well.
Okay, sure thing.
We would love some usage statistics from mobile versus portal or platform. Do you have any advice how to get these numbers?
So I'll answer that in two parts. So we do have in Orlando. We're releasing mobile analytics, which actually gives you usage analytics on your mobile users. So things like what applets are they opening up? What functions are they using? Where are they coming from, iOS or Android? So that kind of usage analytics for users coming directly from the app, all that's going to be available in Orlando. That other side to it, being able to differentiate service portal usage or desktop usage versus mobile usage, that has been a topic that has been asked on from some customers, and it's now on our radar, and it's also on our roadmap. It's something that we do plan on talking more about in the future, but my best recommendation is so on the community site, we have a let's move this out of the way. We have a idea portal, and if you actually request that feature, this will this will actually have visibility to our. If I guess I don't need to log in, but just know that if you make that request on the idea portal, our product team will be able to kind of discuss it more, see what is the need for it, and kind of go on from there.
And one thing I'll add, I don't believe we have the invites live yet, but in about a month, we'll be doing our Orlando launch broadcast, and you'll be able to get a peek at the new mobile analytics during that session. So stay tuned for an invite to that. Last question here was, when will multi-row variables be shown in the app?
Multi-variables. So I'm not very familiar with variables because I know that is a platform feature. However, I think my suggestion for that is, again, go to the idea portal. Please submit that request. I want more visibility and discussion on multi-variables, but I don't think that is something that is currently supported for mobile. I think I have Fu Ho, who's also on our mobile team. That Fu, do we know if multi-variables is supported for mobile as of today in New York? Do you have any head on that?
I don't think so. I think multi-variable is referring to catalog items. I don't think that's. I don't think you can display that for now, but there's talks about supporting in the future.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's good. So it's on a roadmap. Make sure to kind of submit that request on idea portal. We do want to hear from you guys. What is most important to you. So anytime you put in a request for idea portal, we do see it. So definitely start there.
All right. Moving along, Mark had a couple of questions here. So first one is, so you've got a custom app, which sounds logical, and the quick action menu maps is now one of the out-of-the-box scopes, ? How are you promoting that to production with an update set? So I think this is around, like, if I'm using the out-of-the-box scopes, how do I manage that in my publishing process and getting that from dev or test into production?
Fu, would you know the answer and what's best practices on migrating from sub prod to prod?
Yeah, so you can basically, I think you can export your scope. So if you search for my company, that is where your mobile scope is. And I believe you can export into an update set and import it. So David, go to your instance and say my company.
Yeah. You
should have one that says, I think you create, yeah, there it goes, to live seminar. Yeah. So that's your scope. It's in development. And I believe you can export that and it becomes, your update set, and you can move it over to your instance, or import it into your instance. So it's my company application. That's what it's under.
Yeah. All right. Next question here was, is it possible to launch the virtual agent with additional parameters? So something like using the skip load history equals true, like you can do on the service portal.
That is a really good question. Not natively. From a web, you can probably pass in the query. But yeah, the settings are, I know what you're talking about like clearing the history and stuff like that. It is a setting in Portal or somewhere, I forget, but it's a setting that you have to set initially, but passing it through natively as a parameter, I don't think that's possible now.
Okay. And next question here is it possible to deep link to the Now Mobile app and launch virtual agent automatically, possibly even launching a specific topic as part of that link?
That is a very good question. So we do have deep link functions. If you look at our documentation, it shows you how to create a deep link, and basically you can go to like what do we call it, the scripts. Look at my instance real quick. There's a function that can generate a deep link URL for you, but you have to provide specific parameters to get that deep link into whatever instance you want. And I think it's called, you can use the sys.scripts.do and generate your links there. If you look at the function call, David, you can scroll down a little bit.
Oh, yep.
So right there. So you gotta instantiate that mobile deep link generator, and you gotta tell it what app you want. It's either request or agent, and then it should return the link, and then you can give it to someone else, and it should open up the app for you. So that deep link generator is the and you gotta tell which function, of course. Is it a form or a list? And you should test it on that.
All right. Next question is, what kind of settings need to be done to play the multimedia format in KB articles?
Multimedia format. I think I need some more clarification on that. So in New York, we have, so I think the question is maybe in regards to being able to display information out of the box. I don't think out of the box there's any multimedia type of fields, but it is something that you can configure if you want to add like a YouTube video, for example. That's something that you can do outside of mobile studio. So actually, I think it's best. There's a step-by-step. I don't think I would be able to explain it in just a couple minutes. So it's good that you asked that question, because in this mobile advanced development fundamentals, it goes through step-by-step on exactly how to configure, how to put a multimedia field inside your app. So just open up this course, click on, let's go ahead and open that up now. If you open up, I think it's under screen type fields. Uh-oh, what happened? Where'd it go? Let's open it again. If you go to screen type fields, and then you look up media. I show you how to embed media, like a YouTube video, inside of your apps. So just go through this slide and you'll know exactly how to configure it. Great question, by the way. And hopefully that I answered the right question too. Feel free to clarify if I missed it. Any other questions, Tom?
Yeah, we got 2 more left here. So these center around timeline and future capabilities. So before David answers, I'm just going to caveat that we obviously can't commit to any timelines or promise when certain features will be available, but I'll let the team weigh in on any additional color they want to add. So the first question here is, when will the global search capability be available?
Oh, great question. So global search is possible in Orlando. That is something that you can configure. You can search up any table that you want. So if you want to search up instant table, that's something you can configure. And it's going to be on the Orlando product docs. That's already actually live. So if you're on an Orlando instance, you can go through product docs and see how to configure that.
Awesome. All right, and last question we have here is, any timeline or roadmap to develop the impersonate feature for mobile application?
I'm aware that that's one of the biggest ideas on the idea portal. It is something that's been discussing internally. Although I'm not aware of a specific timeline, but just know that it is in discussion. So it's good that you guys are sharing your feedback with us. We can take it back to the inbound team and kind of further those discussions. So that's all I have on that for now.
All right. I think that's all we have for questions, and we're right at time. So I think that's about perfect. So thank you, David, for presenting. Thank you, everyone, for hopping on and for participating with your questions. Really appreciate it. We'll get this recording posted shortly, and we'll see you again 2 weeks from today. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.